Good morning. I know there will be other students coming in as you leave the other sessions, but we only have 40 minutes, 10 minutes to make presentations, and then 10 minutes for question and answers, and we don't want to miss not one opportunity for you to get a chance to hear from our outstanding leaders, thought leaders as I call them, who have worked with what was formerly American Humanics, now Nonprofit Leadership Alliance. And they've flown in from all across the country. My name is Phyllis Wallace. I was the former director for campus expansion, as well as a vice president for nonprofit partners for American Humanics for 17 years. I retired in 2012, and I am absolutely honored to have an opportunity to come back and get a chance to see how much progress this organization has made, and to also to meet all of the students. I think you are very special, just as I learned about the young professionals that we have here today. Your decision to make a difference in the world and to do something for others is quite outstanding. I've met a lot of young people in my life, and believe me when I say that you are very unique, you are very important, and I'm just delighted to have this opportunity to share some time with you this morning. I have with me today 5 of the top thought leaders, young professionals who, again, worked as interns for past management institutes. They served on staff with American Humanics, now Nonprofit Leadership Alliance, and they have moved into professional positions where we thought it would be a great opportunity, since it wasn't that long ago that they were sitting in the seats just as you are, and today they've become the leaders of their organizations, for you to hear their stories, for you to hear the challenges that they faced, moving from the chain link from the beginning to where they are today, for them to give you some advice, and some of it's pretty funny, so I think you're going to enjoy it. So I'm not going to spend a lot of time talking, and as everyone who remembers me, I can talk. So I'm going to hold it down and really give them each, they have 4 minutes. I brought my kitchen timer so that they will stay on time. So you'll hear a little bell possibly at 3 minutes, and then they'll have 1 minute to go. And then it's my understanding the staff from Nonprofit Leadership Alliance will come into the room, and they will pass around microphones, and you'll have 10 minutes to be able to ask them specific questions. You are in the seats where they were not more than 10 years ago, and I believe you want to get where they are today. So we're going to try to build that bridge so you know exactly what it takes, and you understand the challenges as well as the rewards when you're making that particular move. So I'm going to start with the young lady who's on my right. Her name is Melissa Hill, and we had a chance to work together for many years, and she's going to start by telling you her story. So thank you for coming this morning. Melissa, you're on.
Great. Thank you so much, Phyllis. My name is Melissa Hill. I am a CNP. And I was class of 2008, and I went to AMI in 2008, which means I'm 10 years to the day from where you are right now. So I am so excited to see you all here. It's a fabulous opportunity that you all have right now. Take it in, make all the connections that you can. I was very excited to see that the theme of the conference is hyperlinked, because what I wanted to share with you is the importance of connections to my career in the nonprofit sector. I currently work for Girl Scouts of Northeast Kansas and Northwest Missouri, but my first job was with the Nonprofit Leadership Alliance, and that came to me almost entirely through connections that I made. My campus director had seen my leadership potential in the student association. He knew what I did in my internship, and then he saw a job come available at the Alliance. So he made the connections for me, gave me a great recommendation, and it was just up to me not to screw up the interview at that point, and I didn't. So I had a great time at the Alliance, did a lot of very cool things, was very flexible and tried new things, which always helps. I had always wanted to work for Girl Scouts. I'm an alum, Gold Award. I volunteered for them all the time. And when I seriously thought about working for them, I did 3 things to get the job. The first thing that I did was I had some friends who worked there. So I called them up and I asked to volunteer for them. And not just normal volunteering. I tried to find things that I could do for them that made me look like a staff member. So at Girl Scouts, we offer a lot of trainings, and usually there are 2 people at each training. You have the actual trainer who's working with everybody, providing the content, and then you have somebody who's assisting them. I took the assisting job, not the training job, which means I'm the person doing check-in, I'm greeting everybody. If a problem comes up, I take care of it so I can enable the presenter to do their job. That's what a staff person does. So I volunteered to do that so that my friends who work there could see me as a staff member and a colleague, not just somebody who was like stuffing totes for an event or something like that. So really intentional volunteering. Second, I leveraged those relationships and had them introduce me to a VP who worked there. And she very kindly let me have an introductory conversation. I told her who I was, what I was good at, why I like Girl Scouts, had a great convo. She didn't have a job for me or anything, but she knew who I was and that I was interested. Third, I used other connections to make a relationship with a board member for Girl Scouts. Again, had another lunch, introduced myself, let her know what I was good at, what I was looking for, and asked her for advice. And she gave me great advice, and 3 months later, a job came available. I had already talked to the hiring person for it. I knew a board member who gave me a recommendation, and I had friends there who already saw me as colleagues. So again, I just had to not screw up the interview. So I really recommend everything that you can do today and your future to make these connections, and not be shy about asking your connections to introduce you to other people, because that's how you expand your network. So thank you all for having me today, and I'm excited.
Very good.
Did it ding?
Yes, and you are allowed to clap after each one of their presentations. Our next presenter is Paul Lee. And Paul Lee, will you take it from here?
Good morning.
Good morning.
Okay, is there anybody out there? Good morning.
Good morning.
There we go. So I just discovered that I'm the grandpa of the group. My first AMI was in 2004. Actually, right here in Kansas City. I went to Lindenwood University, and Lindenwood is right outside of St. Louis, so 50 of us took an Amtrak train. It didn't crash, and maybe that's too soon, sorry. Too soon? Okay.
Too soon.
But we took an Amtrak to AMI for my first experience, and I knew nothing about becoming a nonprofit professional, American Humanics, nothing. I saw it as a free 3-day trip to get to another community. So good barbecue in Kansas City, my roommate was going, sure, let's go. And met great people from all across the country, and it really sealed what my heart knew that my passion was in life, but my brain didn't know it at the time. When I went to Lindenwood, I went as a political science major. Had been involved with a number of nonprofits. I think it's a coincidence or providence that I'm sitting next to a fantastic Girl Scout leader. I was involved in the Boy Scouts, earned my Eagle Scout Award, but at the time had no desire to work for the Boy Scouts because that's what all I knew. I had worked camp staff, and everyone that worked camp staff went to Lindenwood, graduated with a degree in nonprofit management, and worked for the Boy Scouts. That was not going to be me. 3 AMIs later, I started working for the Boy Scouts. But in that, I had the opportunity to meet people. And this conference in particular allowed me to meet people that I speak with, every single day. I worked for the Boy Scouts and was relocated to Florida. While here at AMI, I met a gentleman by the name of Chris Edgington. He was a professor at the University of Northern Iowa. Are there any Panthers in the room? No, but there's one Panther, all right. And Dr. Edgington said, I want you to come work for me in American Humanities at the University of Northern Iowa. I don't know anybody in Iowa. Sorry, no thank you. Not happening. Iowa seems cold. There's not a whole lot of people there, and I don't have any family there, so no thank you. I'm living in Key West, Florida. I then moved to Iowa because of a connection that was made here at this conference. I had the opportunity, just like the rest of everyone else, to work at the national office. I was an intern there, and then in turn worked for the 2006 Army and developed relationships that has cultivated me to the ding, which means I have to wrap up. So my takeaway for you is that relationships matter, and that you don't know where a connection that you make today can propel you down the road. So take this opportunity and all your opportunities to make as many unique relationships as possible. Thank you.
And next we have Leah Chavarria. Leah, will you take it from here?
Absolutely. Those are tough acts to follow for sure. So my name is Leah Chavarria. I was AMI 2010 and 2011. I worked with the wonderful, amazing Phyllis to put those two conferences on. I also worked with Melissa and I worked with Elizabeth. And I called David a couple times. David, what do I do? So I'm really happy to be here. I'm actually working in a private industry as an immigration attorney. So my pathway through AMI actually led me to be an attorney, interestingly enough. And in law school, I thought for sure I was going to be working at a nonprofit at the end. And when I decided to go to law school, my whole reason for going to law school was to work in policy and to work in a nonprofit environment. In the end, now I'm working in a private field as an immigration attorney, representing individuals in defense of their removal. So the interesting thing is removal defense in immigration law oftentimes is called the nonprofit industry because we are working in public interest. So it's not high pay as far as attorney positions go. It's not something I would recommend if you want to make a lot of money. But I get by, I can pay my bills, and I also do amazing work with individuals who I care about deeply and who deserve to be in this country legally. So how I ended up as an immigration attorney was a friend of mine at AMI and I were talking about working in the legal field in policy, and we really, both of us had done some research and we thought law school was the best way to do that, to go to law school. Now, I want to say that you don't have to go to law school to work in policy. That's not true. But for me, it felt like that was a really good start. I'm not working in policy yet, but I hope to soon. It's a really hard avenue to get into. But what I can do is I can work really hard in my field, learn as much as I possibly can, and then I end up being an expert in my field, and people reach out to you for information, and it happens all the time. So as far as advice, I would say, networking is hard, right? Making those connections is hard. But in every field that I've worked in since I was at AMI, and then I went to law school and working in some private firms and some nonprofit firms after law school, networking is the most important thing that you can do. The job that I have today happened because I went to happy hour with another attorney at the firm that I work at now. So had I not contacted this attorney and say, hey, can I take you out for a drink so that I can find out what you do? And then her and I got to talking, and we worked with, and she came back to the office and told her boss, hey, I just met, this intern that used to work in our office, and he's like, my boss now is like, hey, we need some help at the office. Tell her to come in if she's free. I'll pay her. At that time, I had no job. So, of course, I showed up the next day at 9 a.m., and I've been there ever since. So
Ding.
You want to network. You want to work your way into the field that you want, and you do that by contacting people. But I'm going to tell you, it's nerve-wracking. It is. I'm not going to lie, but you've got to do it. And that's how you start to make your way into the field where you want to be.
Thank you.
I'll reserve my
Thank
time.
you, Leah. Next, we're going to hear from a young man who was an exceptional intern, and he really was a challenge because he had more questions than I ever had answers to give. So everyone, I'd like for you to meet David Lefevre.
My name is David Lefevre, and I currently live in Richmond, Virginia. I attended Rockhurst University, so I'm excited. Some Rockhurst, fellow Rockhurst people.
You built the crew.
I did. So it's good. It feels good to be back in Kansas City. After I graduated from Rockhurst, I moved to Richmond, Virginia. I think the theme with being hyperlinked and being connected, I actually accepted a position at the Virginia Center for Inclusive Communities, which was an affiliate of an organization that I had volunteered through in high school and then in college. So being connected, continuing those relationships landed me a job. I never imagined that I would land in Richmond, Virginia. I thought I actually interned at the National 4-H Council, which actually I landed at an interview at AMI 2008. And so I thought I'd move to DC. But I was open to the possibility. I was open to a new adventure. Not to say that it was very difficult. Moving to a new place that I knew no one, I had no family. I worked in an office of 4 people. The oldest person in the office the youngest person in the office, I should say, was 50. So I love them. I'm still great friends with them. But to have those connections and networks was very difficult. But I'm so thankful for the opportunity that I had to sitting in your chairs in 2008, planning this conference. So it's exciting to be back in Kansas City. 10 years ago, Elizabeth and I were helping plan this conference. So we were running around making sure that everything was happening with our dear Phyllis over there. So it's really exciting to be back here. But really, I think the whole thing was just being open to the possibility. This work that either you are already working in or will be very soon it is difficult at times. You have sometimes little resources. You're working for causes that are traumatic, that are difficult. Working in immigration, or my most previous position, I worked for Stop Child Abuse Now. So we were working with cases of severe physical and sexual abuse of children. And that was very hard, the toll that takes on you, but the rewarding part of what the work that you're doing every day is really important. So being a part of AMI, I attended my first AMI in 2007 in Washington, D.C. So being on that national scale in a different way was really inspiring to me. And then I knew that this was my calling to do this work. And after working at the national office, having the pleasure of working with Phyllis, who her tokens of words of wisdom still ring true. I remember one of the things that I will leave with you is that Phyllis always said, never burn a bridge. So never, as much as you get frustrated with people, we're all humans, never burn that bridge. And I think that is so true, and it has rung true. And one of the things that has become fruitful in that way is actually a couple months ago, the job that I had with Stop Child Abuse Now, and my current job working for Boys and Girls Clubs of Metro Richmond, I was able to schedule a meeting with both of my former boss and my current boss, and now we're in a formal collaboration to be able to make sure that our Boys and Girls Club is trauma informed, that we are making sure that all of our services are making sure that we are providing the best service for our kids as possible. And in that moment, I thought of Phyllis, and I was like, this is why I do this work. It's not about competition. It is about collaboration and making sure that we are serving our communities the best way possible.
Thank you, David. Okay, and last but not least, this is a young lady who lives in this city. She is an exceptional, she has a warmth about her, and I want you to hear from Elizabeth Wheeler.
Thank you, Phyllis. Thank you very much. My name is Elizabeth Wheeler. I live here, born and raised in Kansas City. I currently am a major gifts director for the UMKC Foundation at the University of Missouri, Kansas City. And so when I was sitting where you were, as many of you probably share this, not sure what I wanted to do, not sure what I wanted to go into. I had a degree in communications, and I just wasn't sure. But I knew I wanted to be in nonprofit work, so I decided to go ahead and go right back and get a master's degree at UMKC in public administration. I decided that was the time to do it for me because it was before I had responsibilities of career and family. So I went right back in to finish my master's, and I'm glad I did. As I was getting my master's, I worked for the Nonprofit Leadership Alliance. Got to work with these fine folks. So through the years, and as I worked my way to where I am now, I took a path of a lot of different organizations. After Nonprofit Leadership Alliance, I was at a domestic violence shelter, and I spent some time in a disability advocacy organization, and I spent 4 wonderful years at Girl Scouts with Melissa. I've always just found causes that I was passionate about and that I could really get behind. But the story of where I am right now at UMKC is a story of critical links. So I'll tell you quick stories. There's 2 links. The first is Jennifer. Jennifer was on the board of directors at Girl Scouts where I worked, so I knew her through there. She and I both volunteered for NP Connect here in Kansas City, so I knew her through there. And she was a vice president at UMKC Foundation. And the second critical link is Mark. Mark was a friend of mine I met him getting my master's degree, and we had stayed in touch, and he got a job at UMKC Foundation. And so I had lunch with him. I said, Mark, sort of jokingly, I'd love to work with you and Jennifer someday, so if a position comes open, let me know. And literally, like that afternoon, somebody had announced their retirement from UMKC Foundation, and so he mentioned my interest to Jennifer, and we talked, and now here I am at my beloved UMKC. So it really was about knowing the right people and having those networks, as everyone has mentioned. But I'm in fundraising, and I wanted to share with you, at first, I wasn't drawn to fundraising. I didn't think that's where I wanted to be. I liked marketing and communications and PR, and what I realized is that when you really think about the reason behind your marketing and getting people, it's drawing people into your cause, and when you draw people into your cause, they want to give their time, they want to volunteer, they want to give their money, and there's joy in that, and it's beautiful, and it's wonderful, and that's philanthropy, and so I decided that was the career path that I wanted to do. I wanted to help connect people to things that they're passionate about and give them an opportunity to give back with their time and their treasure. So that's sort of how I wound up where I am. Something that's been really challenging for me over the years that you will probably encounter is toxic people. There's going to be people that you work with that are mean, and you just have to learn not to take it personally, and you have to learn to, Michelle Obama says, when they go low, you go high, and just always remain professional, because what everyone has mentioned, it's true. It's a small world after all. You can't burn bridges. Everybody knows everybody, so just try to be that professional person and let things bounce off of you and don't take it personally. But then some advice I wanted to share with you. It's a few fun things, but then I have some serious advice. Things maybe no one is going to tell you. When you get out into the big world and you have your big people job, there's going to be a break room in your office, and there might be a microwave. And you're going to want to not burn any popcorn in the microwave, because this will anger your coworkers. You're going to want to not microwave fish. Yeah. That also tends to make enemies. And if you do microwave something and it explodes, you're going to want to clean out the microwave. So just be very careful with microwaves. Yes, that's the key. And clean up your dishes out of the sink. Just be a good person. Also, if your organization has a gala and there's an open bar, you're going to want to order a water. You're going to want to try not to get too drunk in front of people that you're trying to raise money from. So that's one I learned the hard way. Just kidding, it wasn't that bad. But seriously, though, like everyone says, network, make friends, stay in touch with people, help people meet their goals, and they'll help you meet yours. Take care of yourself. Watch out for burnout. Take self-care seriously. It's easy to have secondary trauma when you work in organizations, and it can weigh on you. Just remember to take care of your physical and mental health. And then in fundraising and for anything, put relationships first. Think of people as people and not a means to an end. That has worked well for me, and I think it'll work well for you. So, all right.
Thank you. Now, the good news, all of the thought leaders will be around through the professional development session. So if you have a chance to interact with them, if they triggered something that you might be interested in, whether it's being an attorney or in development or working for the Girl Scouts or working for any of the organizations that they're with, you couldn't have better leaders and advice than the young people, the young professionals who are here today. Now, each of you will be making choices to fulfill your destiny. And I wrote down, I'm a student of the Super Soul Sunday that comes on every week with Oprah Winfrey. So I did plagiarize a little of some of what I've heard from these great leaders that she has a chance to talk to. But I wanted to end our session by sharing with you some of the wisdom that I've picked up, and I only wish I had known that when I was your age, so that I could have used it, although it worked out pretty well. I guess I had some natural instincts. I must also say that the reason I looked so good when I worked for American Humanics in terms of my work and what we accomplished was because of the young people who are sitting here on this stage. Don't ever be afraid to bring in interns. They are phenomenal. People in our industry are already mission-driven. We already have a professional nature and a caring nature that will take you all the way to the top in this sector and in the world. But let me give you the words of advice that I picked up from Super Soul Sunday. The most important one, hang in there. Don't give up. I used to always say, don't give up. You only fail if you give up. So when things get rough, that's part of your journey. Every time you have a negative, you're learning how and becoming stronger to deal with the positives. And I promise you that's always going to happen in the work that you're going to be doing. Another one is focus on yourself. Really take care of yourself. We have to be healthy. We have to be strong. They can tell you. I was preaching every day. What that's a candy bar. That's a Coke. Wait, where are you going? Go get some crackers and some vegetables and some orange juice. Yogurt. Wait a minute, you're eating the wrong things. But be sure to take care of yourself because this work requires a lot of energy, a lot of time, and it doesn't necessarily pay the largest amount of money, but it is so rewarding because you are actually doing something that's going to make a difference in the world. Feed your mind. Don't ever stop getting an education. Continue to get the masters, the PhDs, the attorney's degrees, the certifications, all of that is so important. Well, it's really important for all students, but particularly for our field because the laws are constantly changing, the rules are constantly changing, and technology is making it even more difficult and challenging. Always be yourself. Always be yourself. No matter whether you have to stand your ground, in a meeting, but everyone will get to know, well, we can count on her to always bring up diversity. We can count on her to always bring up the ethical ways in which things should be done. You have nothing to prove, except your heart and the love and the decision that you've already made to work in this sector. Enjoy it. Have a lot of fun. We laughed and stayed way after hours. These are my children. They know that. And I have many others that I've been blessed to be able to stay connected to, and I'm so proud of what they've accomplished. Life isn't an accident. You're here and you're doing what you're supposed to be doing. So if you've already made a decision to go into this sector, you are going to help one person at a time, a lot of children, a lot of families, and you really are going to make a difference. And then last, you are enough. You don't have to do anything else to prove yourself. You are enough. Look in the mirror and say that to yourself every day. So I want you to give my panel a wonderful round of applause. They flew in from all over the country. They are the best. And I know that you will match them in the years to come. I may not be here 10, 20 years from now, but I want you to keep the mission going. So now we'll move on to question and answers. Do we have staff with the microphones? Yes? You want to raise your hand if you have a question for our panel? Don't be shy. Here's a hand over here.
I should have wrote down.
Oh, you see one in that direction. You'll be next.
Okay, so Elizabeth, you mentioned that you want to avoid toxic people. I wanted to ask if you've had a personal experience with toxic people in the work environment and how you dealt with that.
Yes, I've had a few, actually. I think, so I'm trying to think of one specific one. It was actually really early in my career, and it was the executive director, like the top leader of an organization, and she was just a really unhappy person, and she didn't like me, and that's okay, you don't have to like everyone, but so I wound up, what I did was, and she had made some comments in emails to me that were just really inappropriate, and so I went to my supervisor, and I asked my supervisor, what should we do here? It seems like she's pretty mean, and so my supervisor helped me navigate it, and we actually sat down and talked about it, so we all sat down in a room and talked about it, and just came to realize I was irritating her. I was sending too many emails, she felt. So it was just sort of like a learning experience where you might maybe not send 20 emails this morning. And so that was one way to deal with it, is to bring a supervisor in. But then there might be instances where you're not getting along with your supervisor. And then I would say try to talk to peers and try to talk to other people that you work with and see if there's other people are experiencing this, and then maybe find that person's cohort or someone on the kind of the same level and try to go to them for advice on, maybe you can talk to your peer because it seems like they're bringing bad energy and it's impacting a lot of us. So I'd say it's really kind of talking to other people and finding allies and finding a way to navigate it together.
Next question.
Hi. Okay, so my question is, how do you organize your connections? Because when you go to an AMI or any other like conference, there's so many people that you meet, and how do you like organize it to best get the best
results?
Yes, there you go. Thank you.
So I'll throw at least what I do. Whenever I meet someone and we exchange a business card, I always flip on the back and write how I met them and something about that conversation, so that at the end of the experience or the conference, I have a list of people in their contact, but then I also have a reminder of our conversation or something that was a takeaway from that, because I'm not that smart and I'm forgetful, so that keeps me kind of in tabs of what we talked about, so that we can continue the conversation on. I don't know if somebody has something else.
Ditto.
Yeah, and I make lots of lists, and so that's how I keep track of it. So if I see someone or I make that connection, I'm always reminding myself. So I put things in my calendar, and I think being as a fundraiser, you quickly realize that everyone is, as Elizabeth said, is connected. So if you contact this person, then it may relate in like 10 other connections. So I think just always keeping track of it, of however you keep track of life. So I'm always worried that I'm going to forget something, so I just write everything down.
I have a little book for all my business cards too. So when I get a business card, I put it in that book, and then it's always, I can go back to it at any point in time.
Next question.
So how do you guys feel about, I know you guys talked about your careers and once you got out there, but since we're still in school, like how do you guys think we can get into the like mindset of nonprofits, like through organizations on campus, and like how do you guys, like what's your advice?
Go ahead.
Your Alliance Student Association is a fabulous laboratory for you to volunteer and have some leadership experience. I know a lot of the student associations do a lot of like volunteer projects and fundraisers, so I would start there. but I don't think there is any way to substitute actually being in your community's nonprofit sector. That's volunteering. Again, I would try to volunteer very intentionally so that you're doing something where you're visible to staff members, you can interact with them, and you can form connections, as well as the internships that you're doing. Don't just choose the first internship that will take you. Pick an internship that will take you where you want to go, give you skills, give you connections, and then everything that you can do to be present at big events in your community's nonprofit sector, I think is great. So you can meet people and be seen there.
Yeah, I think it's be involved, right? So be involved when you're at school, be involved with student organizations. Once you're out in the field, be involved with more nonprofits, volunteer. I mean, you can carry that over.
Next question.
Sorry. Hello. So just a quick tip before I ask my question. There's a book that I read in one of my courses this semester, and it's called Never Eat Alone by Keith Ferrazzi. And I don't know if anyone here has ever read it, but it's really great in providing tips for how to manage contacts and expand your social professional circles. And it's helped me in that I actually have a position in the field that I'm interested in now because I utilized one of the tips from the book. So I think that's really great. But my question, so I am not necessarily floating around worrying about what I'll do in the future. I know that I'm interested in development, but I'm really trying to pick out what I'll do for further education. So what will my master's be? I'm not sure, but I know I want to get mine. So I'd like to hear from two perspectives, maybe how you knew the whole time what master's you were going to do and you just kind of honed in on that, or those of you who had no idea and how you figured that out.
Who wants to start?
I'll start. I knew about the master's I wanted to take because I was an undergrad at UMKC, so I just sort of knew it was there. But there are, specific to fundraising and development, there are masters in philanthropy. You can get them online. I think St. Mary University is one that's really
And you go there for a couple
great. Yes. And then also there are certificate programs. So look around if you want to stay local. Search around for some certificate programs. And then I'd also say, I forgot where I was going with that. Anyway, who else has something?
There's my husband is a master in peace and justice at University of San Diego, which I think is a great master's program. So I'll just throw that one out there. But it goes across all boards. I think that it really helps in this sector to have a degree like that.
And I'll add that, at least in my current job and career, a master's is not necessary. A lot of the ongoing education that I participate in is more technical training with systems and reporting and features that I need to use. And a lot of certificate programs, online trainings, online courses are really, really competitively priced. So for me, master's is not the direction that I need to go, especially since Girl Scouts is not going to help me pay for it. So I would just say think about what you want and what program is going to get you there.
And what you can afford.
Yes.
And I would also say that, I think in my own experience, having experience in the field, because now I'm looking at very different master's programs or ongoing education than I thought I would. As being a fundraiser, I need to be very educated in lots of different areas. And so actually I'm looking at different programs outside of development or philanthropy. So I think by getting that experience, you start identifying where are those areas you need to dig deeper or that you're interested in.
Well, I promised the staff that we would end this session by 10:40. Again, our thought leaders will be around if you have some individual questions. I want to leave you with an affirmation. One of the things I learned in life is that you really cannot change other people. So one of my affirmations is that something needs to change, and it's probably me. Remember that. The one thing you can change in life is yourself. And it's very important that you keep that in front of you when you're facing difficult people, when you're facing difficult situations, and it will always work in your best interest. I'd like to close this out again by you helping me say thank you to this wonderful panel. I love them so much. They flew in because I wrote them a letter from all across the country and because you are so important. So if you'll join me in saying thank you to them, we will then end our session and have a chance to talk to you later.
Thank you.